Hey everybody, I'm starting to play around here with the upcoming version of Unreal Engine. Now this is not 5.7. 5.7 should be coming out any day now at the time of this recording, but what I wanted to do is look a little bit further ahead, so I downloaded the source code and built it and ran it, and sure enough I've got this whole home page here. I've got this home page that's really cool. There's a getting started project. It looks like, after 5.7 we're going to start to see a bit of a merger between the Epic launcher and Unreal Engine. Maybe we'll be able to bypass the launcher. It'd be interesting. I don't see Fab in here yet, but there is a wonderful getting started page, and there is a ability to launch an introduction Unreal Engine project. Now this does build a whole new project in your documents folder, so just be aware of that. But it is really set up to be very approachable for new users of Unreal Engine. And then I just realized that, I've never done a tutorial on how it is that you can download the source code of Unreal and actually take a look at a version that isn't entirely finished yet. And so that's what I want to do with this video, is really show you as a non-developer how you can download the code and build it on your own PC. Now, one thing that I really want to point out is, like, this version as it is that I'm running right now, it says Unreal Engine 5.8 on it. And just to be clear, this is not Unreal Engine 5.8. The developers are still working on it. Whatever I downloaded today and built is going to be different tomorrow and next week and the week after and so on, until the folks at Epic actually button down and release even a preview version of Unreal 5.8. However, what this does represent is the current state that they're willing to release the code to the public so that you can take a look ahead. If you're not working in a production project and you're starting to put a project together, this might be something to look ahead to so that you can decide about features that might be coming in 5.8 and begin implementing those before it even releases. It's also great for folks like me that have a YouTube channel teaching people about Unreal Engine. I can start to look ahead at the features before they're fully released. So with those caveats aside, let's go through the process of installing a new version of Unreal Engine that hasn't been released yet. Now, I'm going to focus on the PC. So the first thing that you are going to need is the Visual Studio development environment. And as I said, you don't have to be a developer to build the code, but you will need Visual Studio. Now, it is completely free from Microsoft. You can search for Virtual Studio Community, and as of today, this is what that page looks like. There's a nice little download button. When you click download, you will get an executable file that you can run to start the install. Now, I've done that, of course, already, and really the installer is always around because there's always updates to be applied, as well as modules that you do and don't need, very much like the plugins in Unreal Engine. And so the installer is something that you always keep available. And so here's the installer on my computer. And if I take a look at Modify, there's a few things that you do want to make sure you select when you're installing Visual Studio. And that is, you'll want the .NET desktop development workload. So this first tab here is workloads. And so each of these packages is a set of tools for Virtual Studio for a specific job. The four things that you absolutely do need to add if you're going to use Unreal Engine is the .NET desktop development, the desktop development with C++, the WinUI applications development, and the game development with C++ workflow package. So here, this is C++. So this is a number of general tools, but it does include specifically some hooks for Unreal Engine. So these four should be activated, and they will activate a variety of individual components, and you can go ahead and finish out that install. It's going to take some time, but once you're finished, then you have the main tool that is needed to actually build the source code into the Unreal Engine editor tool that we're so familiar with. So I'm going to close this out now, and we shouldn't need that again. So once you have Visual Studio installed, the next thing to do is get the source code, and that's stored on a website called GitHub. Now, before you can access the source code, even see it, you will need to link a GitHub account to your Epic account. So here is an instruction page on that, and I'll include the link in the description. And this is basically UE on GitHub, and essentially this will show you how you can link an account on GitHub that you'll need to create for free and link that into your free Epic account. Once you have those linked, then you'll be able to access the source code on GitHub. So let's take a look at what that looks like. And here we are. This is the Epic Games area of GitHub. I can click on Epic Games, for example, and they have a variety of different code repositories, as they're called. And in particular, we want the Unreal Engine repository. So once you've got your account linked, you'll be logged in to GitHub with your GitHub account that's linked to Epic. And then when you try to go to github.com/epicgames, that active link should allow you onto the page, and then you can click on Unreal Engine. And this will take you to the release branch of the Unreal Engine source code on GitHub. Now, the release branch is the current official release. So as you can see here, this is version 5.6.1. So this is the official release as of the time of this recording. The 5.7 preview has been released, and I'm working with a version even later than that. So let's take a look at a few of the different repositories that are here available, or branches in Unreal Engine. Now, if I click on this release button here, this shows me the different branches. There's quite a few in here, and they have different purposes. I think the main thing to understand, again, is that release is the current official release. And now currently 5.7 is out in preview, and so there is a 5.7 and there's a dev 5.7. Dev 5.7 is going to be more development work. So if we are on 5.7.0, this will likely contain content that is being added to whatever the next point release, maybe 5.7.1, etc. And you can even see the work as it's being done over here under commits. So as the programmers are authorized to release code publicly on GitHub, a commit is sent in, and you can click on commits to see them. And this will also give you some insights as to what's coming in the next version of Unreal Engine. So you can see here that the last commit that was made was 7 hours ago. So I suspect, I would think at this point, based on all we're hearing about 5.7, that for Dev 5.7, anything that's being committed now is probably for a future release rather than the 0.0 release of that. It may be, and again, I'm not an authority on this, but I suspect that 5.7 will be our 5.0 release. It's still getting commits though. There's one that's even newer, 5 hours ago. So that tells you that this is still in active development. So the thing that I did to download something that had a future version is to select the UE5 main. Here it is, UE5 main. So UE5 main is the quote-unquote latest, greatest branch. So anything that is being developed new for Unreal Engine that is not in a current release is going into this. So when I downloaded and built this, that is what's currently showing as 5.8, even though 5.8 is not finished yet. So this is really 5.7 plus at this point. Anything that's in this could be removed. Anything that's in this could be fixed. Anything that's in this could be broken. So just be aware of that. Once you have selected the branch, and in my case, UE5 main, then I'm going to share the easiest way to download the code. If you're a developer, then you're probably already familiar with GitHub, and maybe you use a GitHub desktop app and you do pull requests and forks and all that kind of stuff. But this video is for folks who are not developers. And so I'm going to skip past all of that and just show you how you can download the source code. And to do that, once you've selected the branch, in this case, again, UE5 main, then you can go over to this green code button, click this arrow, and here is download zip. This will download a zip file of all the code for Unreal Engine. Now for myself, what I'll usually do is right-click and choose Save Link As on this, so I can specifically direct where this will be saved. So I have on this one 8 terabyte drive, a UE build folder, and that's where I direct my downloads so that it's available on a drive that I know has plenty of space. This particular drive still has lots of space. Most of this 8 terabyte drive is available. So this is what I usually download to. And that is an important consideration, is how much space you need. Here you can see that the zip file that I downloaded earlier today is basically 700 megabytes. But when you unzip this, and I'll just show you the size of my unzipped UE5 main folder, it's pushing closer to 400 gigabyte. It's saying size on disk, 400 gigabyte. So make sure you have plenty of space. I would have at minimum a half terabyte ready to go and have some headroom above that. So just be aware of that when you're downloading. And this, by the way, is after not only unzipping it, but then actually building the project files and building the executables. So when you first unzip this, it won't be 400, 300 gigabytes, but as you go through the steps of building Unreal Engine, it will grow. And so I'm at the point where I have Unreal Engine running, and so it reached a little over 500 gig. Just be aware that that's where you're going. Okay, so with the source code downloaded, the next thing you can do is unzip it. So in my case, I unzipped to a folder called UE5 main, and then you double click to go in there. You'll find Unreal Engine UE5 main. Again, this UE5 main is because that's the branch I chose. And there are two things to run here before you open up anything in Visual Studio. The first thing is scroll down and make sure you run setup.bat. You can just double click this to run it. I'm not going to do that now because it might overwrite some of the files that I have. When you run this, it's going to check for dependencies. It's going to run some scripts to build files for, well, building Unreal Engine. This may take a good bit of time, and there may be a couple instances where you will have to authorize, your operating system's going to want permission to extract something, open something, download something. So just keep an eye on it. I'm pretty sure setup.bat only had one instance of that for me, but you'll run this first and extract everything needed to build the project. So once that's completed, you'll need to run generate project files.bat. So running this is going to see which files exist, check against GitHub. It's got a few different processes. Again, this is something that does take a good bit of time to run. So, maybe launch it and step away, come back and check on it, because you may get one of those authorization dialogues and it'll be sitting there waiting. You don't want to just launch it overnight and come back the next morning and it only ran for 5 minutes and it's asking for permission to continue. So just pop in on it occasionally to make sure that it's still progressing, and after a good bit of time it will be finished, and just any windows that it had opened will be closed. And at that point you are now ready to open Unreal Engine's build project, the solution file for Visual Studio to actually build Unreal Engine. And after running generate project files, you'll find that in the same folder. It's called UE5.sln for solution. So this file will not exist until after you've run setup.bat and generate project files. So this file is actually created from generate project files. Okay, so once that is ready, you can double click it to open it up. This will launch Visual Studio, and then you should get a window similar to this, where you've got your Solution Explorer, which is really a browser for all of the different source code files involved in the project or solution, and your overall window for development. Now again, you don't have to do development in here. 9 times out of 10, when I compile this, it works. Sometimes when you compile this, you will get errors. Sometimes it works even if you've gotten warnings or errors here. But again, most of the time, if I see errors, I can just download a new update of the source code and go through this process again. 9 times out of 10, I don't get errors and it works fine. But just be aware that every time you do get errors, it could be new. It could be something that's been updated in the last few hours or the last few days. And so you can go ahead and read that error and see if you can figure out how to make an adjustment to correct it. On my case, I usually just pack it up and come back the next day and download a new set of source code and go through the build process hoping it's been fixed, and it's usually fixed. So before you build, though, there are a couple settings that you want to make sure that you've configured before you build. And so the first one is, rather than debug mode here, what you want to select is development editor. So just select development editor here, and this will build the correct version of executable code for the engine to run on your computer. And secondly, look for the UE5 file here right at the top of the hierarchy and make sure that's bold, meaning that it is the startup project. A lot of times I'll download this project and it is not bold, and therefore if we were to build, we'd actually be building some other part of the solution, maybe LiveLink Hub or something else. So to make sure this is bold and that this is going to be our startup project, we're going to right click on it and look for Set as Startup Project. There we go. And now this is bold and this is ready to go. We're ready to build. From here, I can either right click and choose build, or I can go to the build menu and choose build solution. Now I've already done this, but when you click this build solution, it will take some time and it will consume CPU power. Your fans will kick in and you'll have a bit of waiting to do. So let this go, get yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever you like, maybe get some email done. I probably wouldn't be running Unreal Engine while that's building for the very, very first time. Just let your computer have some processing time to digest all of that. Ideally, when it's finished, everything will be successful and you can either run Unreal Engine editor from your local Windows debugger, but I usually avoid that. Once the complete build is done, I'll browse to the executable and run that directly. So in my case, again, I was building for this UE5 main. It's under Unreal Engine UE5 main for that branch. And so after the build was finished, I went to Engine and then Binaries in Win64. And here I just went ahead and looked for Unreal Editor. So if I scroll down, we get to the Use, and sure enough, here is Unreal Editor.exe. And you can double click and run this and you're good to go. You could right click and generate a shortcut for your desktop. And that's all I did. And now I've got this version of Unreal Engine running on my computer. I can see this really cool getting started welcome screen. We have a home page where we still have access to all of our projects. We can use See All Projects to get our familiar project browser. And we also have access to tutorials. These resources and community are generally going to open up our dev community pages, right? So we can go in here and see what's going on in the dev community, but clicking tutorials brings us to the Learn Unreal Engine area. So there's lots of exploring to do right from this launch page. And getting started, again, I clicked on this launch button and it actually generated this project on my C drive. Thankfully, it is a relatively small project, only a few hundred megabytes, but I'm kind of excited to explore this and see if this will be an easy way to help others get started with Unreal Engine. But in the meantime, I hope this walkthrough of the process of building, quote unquote, future versions of Unreal is of use. Again, when you're building this, it is not the release. So even though if I go to the help and say about Unreal Engine, this says, version 5.8. This is not version 5.8. This is 5.7 plus a little bit more right now. There is going to be a ton more work done to version 5.8 as the developers continue working on the enhancements. One of the places I love to go and seeing where they're, what they're working on is to type in Unreal Roadmap and go to the product board, the public roadmap, and you can look at forward-looking. Since 5.7 is here now, forward-looking is ideally looking ahead to 5.8. There isn't a whole lot brand new here, but there are some clues as to things coming, and these are good things to try in the build that you make of 5.8. So again, I hope this helps. Until next time, have fun.